Quilters Newsletter TV, the Quilters community, is brought to you by Husqvarna Viking, keeping the world sewing for over 140 years. Hi, and welcome to Quilters Newsletter TV, the Quilters community. I'm Mary Kate Carr-Petras, and I'm back with award-winning fiber artist, Lee McComas. Lee. Well, sure. It's true. It's true. And you're here today to share some of your techniques and some of your process with us.
Right.
So this award-winning matters.
It does. The key to my success.
Well, and some of these techniques are talked about in your book.
Right. Right. And I think they're just key for anybody who's doing not even just portrait quilts, but if you're doing any kind of pictorial, so it could be landscape or still lifes. They're concepts that you just need to have in your mind and you need to be working with.
And we're going to be focusing today on value.
Value.
Okay.
Yep. And value is light to dark. And when I was beginning to do these pictorial quilts, my husband is a painter. He was going to art school, and he said to me that I needed to understand value, that value is more important than color. And it took me a while to get my head wrapped around that. It didn't make sense.
Well, it's hard, I think, for a lot of quilters because we walk into a quilt shop or we see pictures from market of these gorgeous new collections, and we're just dazzled by the color and the pattern, and they are beautiful. But when it comes time to actually work with them, we need to be looking at the value, because if it's just all color, we can be
and if you get a lot of colors of the same value,
you
know, you put those together and you step back and it all blends together. So you don't have a lot of clarification of the design and the shapes. So if you get value correct, or you get a value range, you have lights and you have darks and you have things in between, color doesn't matter. So this is a quilt I did of my stepdaughter Maya, and this is her face, and obviously she's not really Violet. Okay, but it looks like her, and it's a good rendering of her, and it's because the values are all done right. So her shape has the depth, it has the contours that it should have. It's all about value. Here's another. I did another version of her in 2 colors, and again, she is not pink with green hair. But it doesn't matter as long as you get the values correct. So when
it still reads.
So when I went to do her face, I cut these pieces out of the pinks or the red violets that we were going to use, and then for her hair, I just went and then chose greens. But again, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, and there is another little bit darker. No, I think I only went 4 values on that one, and I decided to make the very 5th value part of her face. So it was just a kind of an arbitrary decision.
So the same thing with the pinks? There are 4 values of pinks?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Okay.
So there's a 5. And I made the 5th.
I see.
The 5th one is right here along the edge. And this could have gone green. That was, you know, just decide one way or the other. So that's what I went with. And then this is that same portrait of her, but I like to thread paint. So you can see how I did that. And when I went to pick threads, it's the same thing. I choose my threads by values. So it goes from 1 down to 5, and then there's some very dark threads at the edge.
Did you start with the fusible applique and then thread paint over it, or is this all thread painted?
No, it was fusible applique. So this looked exactly like that second one until I put the thread over the top. And that's what I do for the quilts that I submit for competitions, my art quilts. But I would say if you're going to learn to thread paint, you don't want to do all of this work on the chance that you might mess it up when you do this work. And so while you're learning the thread painting process, I would recommend that you not do that. And so I would share this one with you. This is a piece I did for the cover of my book. And these 2 children, I actually took their photo, printed it in grayscale onto printer fabric that just goes through your home printer.
Oh, okay.
So they're just in grayscale. I cut them out and I put them on a heavy-duty stabilizer. And then I tucked this piece of blue fabric in the background. But if you looked at this before any stitching was done, it was just a grayscaled photo of these 2 children. Then I chose my threads based on value, and I started stitching over them. And if you can look really closely, you might be able to see it. You can actually see the gray in behind it. So it's not always necessary when you're doing the thread painting to start with all those layers of colored fabric underneath it. And this is a great way to learn, because you don't feel like you've already put in hours of doing the fused ridge applique just to get to the stitching part of it.
Well, let's talk about how you go about determining value.
All right, so I made up a little tool, and I call it my value scale. And what I did was I went to the hardware store and went to the paint department and started pulling out paint chips. I went to the grays. So I picked a white, and I picked, or a near white and a near black, and then I found a gray chip that was right in the middle. And then I chose 2 more that were on either, either side of it. So I've got my 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 values. And then I just taped them all together, and I carry it with me, and I love it. I've got a couple of these. So I fold it up, I tuck it in my purse, I have it with me everywhere I go.
Really?
And there's another one in the studio.
You never know when...
That's right, you never know when you need to find value. You got an extra half hour, you're driving down the road, there's a quilt store, you have to stop and look at fabrics. And
absolutely.
Yeah. So,
so you shop with this?
I do.
Okay.
I do. And that's because, well, I'm going to show you. What I actually did was I organized all of my fabrics into tubs by color. This one happens to be actually a couple of colors. This is one of my flesh tone boxes because I do a lot of portraits. So these are my pinky peachy flesh tones, and I've gone through with each one of these, and it was like, okay, these are my 1s, these are my 2s, my 3s, my 4s, my 5s.
And you have them labeled.
And I do. And these are just, 3 of 5 cards, and I stick them in there. And so when I go to do a quilt and I need to pick fabrics, I just go through and I pull something out of 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And it's already done. And I have tubs. My blue tub looks like this, my green tub, my blue-green tub.
Do you keep like a running inventory, like I'm low on mid-range blue-greens?
Yeah, okay. So I know these #1 values in dark colors like blue and green, violet are always hard to find. So when I go out looking for fabrics, I take this, and if I can find some greens and blues in one of these first 2 value areas, I buy them.
Got it.
And I'm always looking for the sale. So then it's totally guilt-free because I know I need it. And then it just fills out my... and if you keep a good stash. So I've made, for example, last year I made Bike Boys, which took the Masters Award for Thread Artistry in Houston. Right. And that one had about 91 fabrics. I only had to go out and buy 2 of them. Everything else was in the stash.
Because you were so well organized.
Yep. I keep a well-stocked stash.
Yeah.
My pantry in the kitchen, not so much. But my stash.
That's a proud quilter's tradition, right?
That's right. That's right. That's right. So here's how I do it too. I just brought some fabric swatches here, and we'll throw these out. So if I found this fabric, get rid of those. You just kind of lay the cards up next to it and see where, it's obvious this is much lighter than that.
Yeah,
so it's not a 1 or a 2. Looks like this is getting dark. This one's probably a 3. What do you think? I think 3 is a little light still.
It does feel a little light.
Yeah.
And do you ever find when you sort your bins that maybe depending on what gets rotated in and rotated out, you might actually put a fabric in a different section?
Yes.
Does it actually change value compared to what else you've got going on?
Playing with and what it's doing, So if it's hard to tell, I know I've narrowed it down to these 2. What you can do is kind of squint at it and see where, and I see that the line between this disappears first.
Okay.
And so this is a 4.
Okay.
And I tell you what, if I had just looked at that, when I put it down, I thought, oh, I think that's a 3, but it's not. It's a 4.
Interesting.
It gets harder, though, when you're using brighter colors. So there's these. And that's where filters come in handy. So I have red and green filters. And what it does is you use green filters with red because they're opposite each other on the color wheel. And you can also use with red's neighbors. So red violets, oranges, you look at them through the green filter. So here's one for you.
Oh, very nice.
All right. And then I have this little notch right here, and that's because I used to wear glasses, now I have contacts. But if you do have glasses, this is one of the upsides to that. You cut this little notch, and then what you do is stick this inside your glasses, and you can walk around your studio and do hands-free value finding. And then you just look at it. So
that's a hot look.
Yeah, it is. Just be remove the filter before you go out in public.
But if you're working on a design wall, or something,
and sometimes you want. In fact, sometimes I'll take the contacts out, put the glasses back in because I need my hands for things. So we're just going to lay that on there.
Yep.
And where do you think the red goes?
4.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe even a 5.
Almost. I think the purple is comes out much darker than the red. That's the 5.
And you can still see that there's a distinct value difference between those two. Yeah.
Very interesting.
Yeah. And then the other side of it is, because green doesn't work on green, when you're looking at green or its neighbor's blue and even yellows, then you look at those with the red values.
Now I have a red value finder at home, but I haven't gotten the green one. So now I need to get
And
one.
the green ones are a little bit harder to find.
It seems so.
And I bought, my first 2 filters came, I got a whole set of color charts, and it had the values in with it, and mine got all scratched up. And I didn't want to buy a whole new set. So I found these at the office supply store. I went to the school supply.
Smart.
These were started, their original life was as 2-pocket folders in the school supply section.
I was just wondering about that.
It's not quite as clear. It's a little, a little more translucent than my original filters were, but it works. It works enough I can get rid of the color and look at it.
Very interesting. That's a great tip.
So that's what you can do. Take yourself to the hardware store and the office supply store. And so then these are some sets of fabrics that I created if I was going to do portrait quilts. I might just go with these. I do a lot of neutrals, so I have 2 bins of these. I have the light beiges and the dark beiges. But I just go pick them out. It also allows me to pick out quickly, and then I always try to choose a different set of fabrics for each face, or a different set of threads for each face, so that everybody it makes them a little more distinct, their own personality.
Let's just pull one out here. So you get let's pull this one out.
Okay.
You, because we talked about the number of fabrics that you had used in these. Did you do a grayscale printout of this photo of her to help you determine where to place these values then?
Yes.
Okay.
So I started with a photo of her and I cropped it. I work with it, I use Photoshop, but there's, I think, any photo editing software you can do this. You grayscale it. If you're not sure how to do that in your photo editing software, go up to the help button. There's usually a menu across the top. You click on that and it'll open up a window where you can type in a word, and you type in grayscale. And then you hit return, and it should show you how to do that. Some photo editing software call it black and white, and it's the same thing. And then it will open up a box, and you can tell it how many layers you want. So mine always defaults to 4 value layers, and it will show you the picture in those value layers. But I up mine, and I like to find 5 values in the face, just in this part of the face. And the rest of it, I don't care so much. Sometimes I go up to 7 or 8 values for the whole picture, just to get 5 values in the face.
How did you come to wanting to work with 5 values? Is that there's some sort of a rule about that, or is that just your own experimentation?
Right.
Okay.
So I found if I went less than that, 3, 2, or well, 2, 3, 4, the face doesn't have enough detail in it, and you start to lose who it is and who they look like. You can go more than that, and sometimes I've done 7 or 8 values in the face because I want to get really detailed, but what you end up with are a lot of little tiny pieces in different values, and it gets trickier. And I find that 5 usually works. It gives you enough depth and contour and detail that the portrait quilt really looks like the person. If you go above and beyond that, you're just getting into the crazy zone. You're cutting out little tiny pieces.
And it seems like a good, kind of a good parameter to apply even to a traditional quilt. Because you can get nice variety without it getting muddy.
Right.
Or super high contrast.
Yes.
So if you're looking for maybe 4 or 5 values, to think about that while you're thinking about color, while you're thinking about that fabric placement, think about the values and where they're going to sit. Because so many of these blocks, these traditional blocks, are so open to interpretation
and where you put the lights and where you put the darks gives them a whole different character. So you could put 2 blocks side by side and they look like completely different blocks, just based on where they go light and where they go dark and what blends together.
These are great tips. Thank you so much for coming today and sharing them with us. And we look forward to, the next set of awards that you're going to bring home for your work.
Okay, all right. Until then, meet you at the hardware store.
There you go. Thank you for joining us. We look forward to seeing you next time. Take care. Bye-bye. Quilters Newsletter TV, the Quilters community, is brought to you by Husqvarna Viking, keeping the world sewing for over 140 years.